Yep, it's pruning time. Hi folks. Yep, pruning time. So, did you like that quote? I thought it would sound, impressive if I put it in quotation marks and attribute it to unknown. It's me, actually. When we bought this place, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, one of the attractions was that it had like 20 fruit trees, maybe even more if you count all little ones. It had lots of fruit trees. They were about 5 years old. Now, if any of you have planted fruit trees, you know that those first few years, obviously you don't get any fruit and it's just getting established, but 5 years is kind of that sweet spot where they're just starting to come on, but they're not all, old and tired. So it was a real attraction, and that was great. And then the winter came. And it was quite daunting then, the prospect of pruning, 20 odd fruit trees. I mean, do we need to prune? How do you prune? So I did the smart thing, and I researched fruit buds, growth buds, they're different. Old wood, new wood. Cut this angle, not that angle. This shape. My head exploded. I've come up with pruning rules that I live by, and I thought that's what I'd talk about today. I guess I could say it's based on more the practical aspects of pruning and what works for me. So I suppose it could be, Paul's pragmatic pruning protocol. But that sounds pretty pretentious. Pretentious, Paul? Anyway. So I'll show you around. Right, there's our pomegranate. Persimmon, lime, golden delicious, plum, Santa Rosa, I believe. Plums need a pollinator. It's a Narrabeen plum. Pink Lady, Granny Smith, pear, believe a Packham. Whoa. Mandarin, got a fig, pear of almonds, I believe that's a Corella pear, another pear here, cherry tree, number 1, this is a quince, we planted this one only a couple of years ago, apple, Fuji, I believe, blood orange, grapefruit, oh my god, raspberry canes, Valencia orange, clingstone nectarine, quince, strawberry guava, white peach, New Haven peach. And this is the second cherry tree. This. What is that? Size. So, the problem is that regardless of all the technical stuff that you might see, seems to me that if the damn tree is too tall, you can't pick the fruit. So the first thing I do when I'm pruning is I prune to size. And my gauge for size is easy. I hope this stays in focus because it's complicated, but we'll see how it goes. That. I don't leave anything on the tree higher than that because that's as tall as I can reach. Using a ladder and stuff like that to prune, I suppose you can do it, but just practical sense, I keep it keep it to that height. Another reason too, though, I said before that you've got to pick up, you know, after your pet tree. Then one thing that happens is that we find if you don't put a net over it, a fruit net or a fruit fly net, then the birds are going to get in. Now, some people have been really successful sharing with birds. Jackie French comes to mind. And that's great. If you can make that work, then fine. You know, netting is a pain in the neck, and I'm sure we'll cover that a little bit later when we start netting. But we find if we don't net, then the birds get in. That causes more fruit to drop, and it also wrecks the fruit for us to eat. So keeping the size of the tree down to what I can reach is also important, because that's about the same size that's going to work under the nets. So pointer number one is I just prune to size. So point number two is the shape. So we've got the size and the shape. For Dave Grohl, it's the colour and the shape, but for me, size and the shape. Now, there's different kinds of kind of common shapes of fruit trees, but the most common is the vase shape, where you'll have, I aim for like 5 branching out main, I don't know, trunklets, and then from each of those will be all the kind of the fruiting growth off that. So a vase shape, being round, vase-like, has a few different advantages. One of them is that being kind of circular, not super high, you're getting kind of the maximum sort of density of fruit for the size. So that's important, as I say, because we're going to put nets over them, and I don't want to have to reach up too high. That seems to work pretty well for me. The other point about vase shape is that it opens up the middle, so you get good airflow and you get good light. So again, they're important. The other kind of shape that, your classic tree shape, your, I don't know, think of your kids' preschool tree drawings, with the big trunk down the middle and the, all the tree leaves and stuff on top, that central leader. Some trees really want to grow like that, but they're hard to net and they can get too big. So what comes to mind for me anyway, I don't know technically about trees, but cherry trees, they want to be central leaders, and in fact when we moved in, they were, and I, through the crafty use of a pruning saw and some tenacity and some pretty lean fruit years, could retrain them into being being a vase shape. But I think retraining is not recommended. It can be done. Now the other thing when it comes to shape is that these little buds here, you might be able to see, I hope you can see, they are going to be where it grows from. So when I'm making a cut, I'm trying to make sure that the cut is as close to vertical as I can. Obviously it's not going to be totally vertical, but as close to vertical as I can. And I want the last remaining bud to be in the direction that I want the tree to keep growing in. So you'll see that this whole arcing form that this one has, so this is a pink lady, that's partially because when I'm cutting, so there's a cut there, that last bud now is pointing outwards. So this year, like in a few months, when it starts growing in spring and summer, it's going to be from there and it's going to be pointing outwards. So number 2 for me is I prune to that shape. What that means specifically is that any growth that's pointing towards the middle, I cut it off because I'm maintaining that shape. If it's pointing the wrong way, gotta go. Maintain the size, maintain the shape.